Scripps News political analyst Steve Schmidt. We want to bring him in. He is the founder of the Warning Substack. We just heard those options right now that have been floated by Nate, Senators John Thune, John Cornyn, John Barrasso. From your background, I mean, where does this go moving forward? We heard it won't be potentially as dramatic as what it looks like when you have a House Speaker and House Speakership, but how does this play out in your eyes?
Well, this plays out in three different ways. First, what is the impact of Mitch McConnell for the remainder of this campaign year? He has not endorsed Donald Trump, who is losing across the first early Republican primaries about 35% of the party. What Mitch McConnell cares about is Republican control of the Senate. And there is a strategic division within the party, which is this. Some senators believe the way to win the Senate is by being a senator who is absolutely, utterly, completely loyal and subordinate to Trump and MAGA. Other senators like McConnell believe the way to maintain the majority is by separating the Senate and said senator from MAGA. So that tension will play out over the course of the year, where Mitch McConnell's refusal to yield to make a last stand for the Reagan wing of the party, which he was waxing nostalgic about. And remember what's inscribed on Reagan's tomb. It says this: "In my heart, I know that man is good, that in the end, what is right will always eventually triumph, and there is worth and purpose in every human life." So the antithesis of the politics of retribution and revenge is that, and Mitch McConnell is signaling, I think, that in his final acts and chapter, that he intends to play an important, defiant political role by not getting in line with, in the end, what he has acquiesced to so fervently over these last years.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
So is he in the minority at this point? Is the Republican Party of Trump?
Oh, absolutely. It's the Republican Party of Trump, in that he controls the dominant faction. There's 38 million Republicans registered in the nation. We have 330 million people that are American citizens living in the country. And we have about a third of the Republican Party, some 14 to 18 million people, are really enthralled and activated by Trump. And they control the institutions and the mechanisms of politics and the practice of it within the Republican Party. You know, it's important to remember that Mitch McConnell's legacy is in part this. He came to office in 1984. As he talked about, the president didn't remember his name. But when he ran and won, he ran against an 18-year incumbent saying he was a career politician who was out of touch and who lost his way. Well, 40 years later, the fundamental legacy that Mitch McConnell leaves behind is this. When he went to the United States Senate, it was routinely referred to and revered around the world as its greatest deliberative body. That's what the U.S. Senate was called and referred to around the world with esteem 40 years ago. 40 years later, nobody says the U.S. Senate is the world's greatest deliberative body. And in fact, what happened here is the Josh Hawley wing, the Ted Cruz wing of the party, defenestrated McConnell, who in 2009 became the first Senate Majority Leader in American history to root for the country's failure as opposed to the president's success. Meaning, when Barack Obama took office at that famous dinner, when he said, "We must make this man fail," he would rather see the nation lose than his partisan opponent succeed. And that was a trip line in American political life in this modern era, which redefined politics and has taken us down a road that we find ourselves well down in 2024. But Mitch McConnell was the father of that moment and the architect in some ways of that road we're well down today.
I mean, to that point, do you think there's been a question raised as to why not finish his term? Why call it right now at this moment? And given what you just said about how there have been moments of defiance with McConnell, moments where he's acquiesced, all in an effort to maintain Republican control of as much as possible and push, that agenda forward. So do you think that's the reason why he wants to see, regardless if it's whatever comes next, this new generation is further away from his hearkening to the Republican, Reagan era, but in the end, it doesn't matter to him because he wants to see just the baton passed and the Republican Party grow stronger in the Senate? Why now?
Well, there are no signs ever that have ever been that would suggest that Mitch McConnell would yield power voluntarily for some greater good beyond the ambitions of Mitch McConnell. What he is exquisitely good at is counting votes. And what Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and some of the other younger MAGA election-denying senators have made clearly to please Trump, is that Mitch McConnell's in his final hours. So at some level, Mitch McConnell is like that proverbial German general in the prison who got handed a revolver and was given 20 minutes. Mitch McConnell is leaving because Mitch McConnell sees the writing on the walls. This is also a partisan act. The comments about being 82, which is coincidentally the same age as the president, should be interpreted through their appropriate partisan lens. What he's saying is, I'm the same age as the person who's running for re-election. I'm stepping away in November because I'm too old for the job. And this is going to be a major issue in the election. And so the what about McConnell question has been cleared from the underbrush so far as this will be debated in a political environment where the debate always follows at some level the contours of a kindergarten fight where both sides are screaming at each other, but what about your guy? What about your guy? Your person did this, your person did this. So 82-year-old Mitch McConnell is yielding power and trying to make it noble when in fact he's somebody who I think understands the currents of the party are going to drown him before too much longer, and that he's paddled himself to the shore and walked up onto it under his own power in his final act, leaving under his terms, at least in the public sphere. But let's be clear about this. If Mitch McConnell thought that he had 5 more unimpeded years of political power, he would have taken them. But that's not what the writing on the wall is suggesting to him.
Scripps News political analyst Steve Schmidt, founder of The Warning. Thanks so much for your insight. It's invaluable, that's for sure. And we'll be right back.